Now, welcome back to Bass and Bonsai. We are going to go through real quick as some offer on AliExpress flashes through. My rod and reel, as of right now, if I had to rig them up, which I'm thinking about doing because I may go fishing this weekend, just to what I'm going to be throwing and what I'm kind of doing. So if I'm just going to, and I'll try to get these out of the way because there's also a few of these are not 100% and possibly for sale, like this reel right here. Calcutta Conquest BFS HG. It's the older one. Probably going to try to sell this. Brew Tank keeps him hawing around. He kind of wants it, kind of doesn't. He'd want me to give it to him, and I'm not giving it away. I'm thinking I'm going to pull these knobs back off, put the stock ones on, try to sell it with that spool. So stock knobs, aftermarket spool, stock spool still comes with it for like 315 bucks. If I can't sell it for that, I'm just going to keep it and fish it. But what I'll fish this on for, this is for when I'm going just to like creeks and streams. And if I sell this one, I probably will buy the new one to try. If I don't, I'm just going to keep this one. But that's going to go on that rainy stream. If you guys remember this one, the rainy stream kyorim from AliExpress. It's the most expensive AliExpress rod I've ever bought, 200 bucks. But man, it does feel, it's a good working looking rod, right? And it looks very good with a round reel on it. I haven't really found any other reel other than a round reel that just sets it off like they go together. Whoa, look out. But it's just a good working looking combo that goes very good together. So that would be my most expensive combo, kind of, because of what that sells for, except depending on what I put the Steez on. But very awesome working reel and going on a good rod. And I'm going to set some of the stuff out of the way as I go. So then I have the, where did it go? I already lost a rod. My rod that may actually make it not just creeks and streams, may make it, well, that other combo I showed you would probably also make it when it's just me and Charles. We're hitting smaller pits and ponds and different places, but primarily a creek and stream kind of deal along with this one. So I guess I'll ask you guys, what would you guys put on this one? If you guys remember right, that's my favorite reel seat. Not necessarily, I like that kyorim rainy stream better, but this is a Lure Star streamer. Ultralight. If you guys remember right, I was a moron and I broke the light. That was all on me, just like I broke the tip on the Teton. I fixed it, the Teton's good to go. But anyway, this, it just makes sense to put this reel on it now that I've, it's a, basically the Dark Wolf Ultra, you know, kind of customized, right? So that, it goes together good. The capabilities, the ultralight of it, that is the non-dynamic. So the fixed Dark Wolf Ultra, basically ultralight, very capable. Should be able to go at as good or maybe even better than the Calcutta Conquest BFS. Just a cheaper way to go about doing it. $85 rod, roughly a $75, $80 reel. Kind of customized, put my own cork knobs on it. Between this one and that other one, they're roughly the same length. You know, 5'6", ultralights. Gonna be like a lot of fun, right? And I still have, I don't know, I got a few others over there. I'm just leaving them. I'm not even worried about them. But then let's go into my kind of BFS, power BFS that I'll probably be taking along whether I'm fishing with Charles and, you know, his boat, bigger bodies water, or even with Matt in his boat, even doing tournaments that I'll probably be using for like soft plastics and stuff. So we're going to have the Teton 661, which is now like a 651. But I'm going to put this reel, and I haven't really talked about this reel since I've done some changes, so I'll talk to you guys real quick. That's the LingL variant that it's my least favorite. It's got the 8:1 gear ratio, and it just has always had a little more resistance feel. And I want to stop real quick and talk about, I know, me and real quick in my videos, you guys will learn to love that, the fact that I go off into tangents and talks and down rabbit holes for no reason. But if you guys haven't watched it, the real test was talking about new Shimano stuff coming out, and I don't even know why I was watching it, because he was talking about the spinning reels, and there is it the Vanquish or one of them, Shimano's. There's a big push because of the, MGL spool on a spinning reel. So, but what he was talking about, he was reading how they translated it in the talk about the feel, about how easy it is to start up the crank of a spinning, because the spinning reel does, it kind of has it gets to wobbling, it gets to like spinning, and it's actually kind of wants to keep going. Like you can take one of those and go like that, and it'll wind in like 10-foot line, right? Well, I want to talk real quick about, that's what I think I'm feeling on this reel. I think I feel it a touch on the Calcutta Conquest, but I'm not even sure what it's got, if it's got aluminum or brass gears, but I think that's what I feel on these 8:1s on the cheaper ones. I think I'm feeling that startup. It's hard to explain because the reel's pretty free, but it doesn't want to keep going like a spinning reel kind of will. But that ability to start and stop. So I think what 3-hour live stream says, Nate, yeah, we could go there. But what they were talking about as I was reading the real test translating, that the Google translated, and then me translating it to you guys, is what I've talked about and guys talk about in Daiwa old school reels for years. You have this, like, certain reels have like a connected, hooked up feel more so than any other reel. And it's not even really matter line, but I think braid enhances all that no matter what reel you got. But it's almost like you can feel everything, and as you stop or when you take off, you're like, and it's not even really a gear ratio thing. I think it has to do with the framing, the material the stuff's made out of, and the gears themselves, because in my opinion, aluminum gears are what give you a more hooked up feel than anything else. Brass gears take away some of that. Knobs can take away some of that. Everything can take away just that. You'll get a feel. It's hard to explain. And I feel this reel has some of the deadest feel. And I don't know what it is about this reel. I think it's just those gears. It's got bigger brass, 8:1. But I've changed it around. I added a different handle, 85 millimeter thick power handle, but it's only 85 millimeters. Custom cork knobs. I even customed I had a piece of foam on there, and I wanted to match my knobs. I know it is not 100% even. It is more even than it looks in the picture. But this was the foam was off, so I just cut the cork to come close. It's just a cork cover, like the bicycle cork grip you can get. But so I worked on this one. I've taken this thing apart like 3 times. I took it apart and put our good oil and grease in it. So it's got the Lucas real oil, and now it has the Daiwa. And it may just be that I need to get it worked in now. But it is, I freed it up. I don't even know what I did other than I just took it apart and put it back together a lot of times. And I got it to where it feels good. But that connected feel and the anti-reverse on all these, if you sit and play with them, the instant isn't as instant as your Daiwa and Shimano's. On these variants, the Acuras, almost anything I'm grabbing that comes from AliExpress, these carbon framed ones. And if you take it apart and you can look, there's only like 6 or 8 of those little roller on the instant and reverse, and most of your higher end ones have like 12, or they're just like almost double the things, is I think what gives you that just dead no back. But once I'm out fishing, I never even notice that, pay attention to it. The more freeness of a reel or less noise is what I like better. So this reel, and then I'm going to talk about that connected feel. This reel is going on the Teton for really 2 reasons. the looks are very, very good. They go together very well. The feel and the palming and the capabilities. This reel is pretty good now that I put those magnets. If you guys remember, I added magnets just like you would on the Dark Wolf Ultra. I guess I should show everybody that doesn't know this. If you end up with one of these LingL variants that has the MagTrack style, them little bitty 1/2 millimeter thick, whether they're 4, these are 4, or if you had the full-on 5 that would be as big. That does seem to help. It lets me have the brake setting on about 4. It seems to work good with a lot of baits, and I'm going to be throwing roughly 1/16 ounce weighted heads with soft plastic or equivalent to that, you know, somewhere around 1/8 ounce or so baits with this, and this is plenty capable. It's kind of like all-around BFS, or almost a power BFS, if you will. And so it's a good looking, working, functioning, palms real well, and we'll get the job done. So let me put these, I'm running out of room to put stuff away. So let's talk about the infill talk, and then, you know, the filling, and then we'll talk, we'll continue on with our lineup. And I want to talk about something else. I was going to make a whole separate video, and I maybe will on a short or two, but let's talk about the old Pixies, the TDZs. Some of you guys maybe even owned the TDXs years ago, before the TDZ. Even the Zillions, possibly. They were aluminum frame, but built basically the same way. But in my opinion, most all those older ones I had were lighter weight, and they had the aluminum gears. And they may have a little geary sound or something, but that connected fill that you fill, I think, had to do with that gear. Now, this may sound ridiculous, but, you know, not necessarily an anti-reverse play, but I would swear that when you're like the bait doing something with the aluminum gears, and this may sound dumb. It's going to sound dumb to a lot of you guys, especially there's a lot of you guys that just swear by brass gears, and they're strong, and they're smoother, and they're whatever. But I would swear that, especially I'm working like a, you know, something across the bottom, even a slow, what I call slow rolling, like a square bill or a crankbait, and you're just wanting to, you know, you're basically fishing one that goes way deeper than what you have to go, so you can go slow and it's still doink ticking off stuff. There's just certain older reels, in my opinion, or some almost even some of the new ones that are aluminum gears, you can still get that feel of a better connected feel to the bait, what's going on. Even with not necessarily chatterbaits, everybody can feel a chatterbait, right? But the littler chatterbaits, the micros, all those kind of things. And I think some of these cheaper reels from AliExpress actually have a good ability to do that. I think, and I haven't really, can't tell 100% for sure on this. I think they thought building that so stout and sturdy and stock would give you that, but I think it sometimes can be the opposite feel, in my opinion. But I want to show you something that I just realized. I was today years old yesterday when I realized this, and maybe I knew it before, and I'll admit I forget some stuff. But I'm just going to show you another reason why this is an awesome reel. Does anybody know what I'm going to show you? That this reel, now, I don't know, maybe I got a special reel, maybe I need to take it back apart, maybe I got something put together wrong. But this reel can do something that none of these other reels I got, from the cheap ones to the most expensive reel basically you can buy, to the Shimano, any of these. Not even this guy. This guy doesn't even do it. This reel does something that none of these others do, and I didn't even really realize it, and it's easy to know if your reel does it or not by looking internally, how it's set up. But I'm going to show you guys something on this reel. And then I'm going to show you on one of these others, I don't know, I'll pick one out and show you that it doesn't do that. And then I'll talk about why I think that's a good thing, and then we're going to go on to this arsenal, right? And then you'll find out which rod this one's going on. If I can't get, this tape falls off when I leave. I come back home and half this tape's just falling off. I can't get it off right now. So let me move the tape out of the way. Let me get this line going. Now I know this one's got a clicker. It didn't come with the clicker. That ain't what the thing that it can do that others can't, because there's a lot of others. Now, thankfully, they come with clickers, right? Every reel, just my opinion, every reel should come with a clicker. I know some of you guys probably don't like them. I get that if you may not like that if you're the kind that you don't like braid because it also has noise. I was kind of there at one point. But I want to show you, and let me get this line, I want to get it out to braid so you guys can see what's going on. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to this. And I want you guys to tell me if you can realize what this reel's doing that none of my other reels do it. And maybe you guys will know other reels that do this. But I want you to watch this. Now, do you guys see what's happening? Anybody yet? That line guide follows the line as it's coming off, being pulled out. And you're like, oh, so what, Charlie? All that matters is in the cast. Well, exactly. Because what can happen, now it disengages. You know, I push this in and I cast, it doesn't go with the spool. But the drag does. So, and it's real simple to tell if your reel does this or not because of how the drag, the gear to the deal's hooked up. And I don't have a reel apart enough to show you guys. But I'm going to show you the downside of why that is an excellent thing. And in my opinion, we need to get back on getting all these reels to put that right back on. I think we've forgotten how important it can be to have that on. I think that exact reason why a lot of these newer ones don't have that is why you get phantom backlashes. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you're casting fine, all of a sudden you get a phantom backlash. Why'd that backlash? If you guys remember right, the Zillion did it. So let's just grab this high dollar dude. Let's talk about the same company that made this reel years ago technology. Puts this out right now. You'll hear the buzz on this. The buzz on this reel, it comes with all the newest technology, right? All the newest that Daiwa has to offer is in this reel, and they painted it Mandalorian color. So let me just, oh boy, this is going to be difficult. Okay, now let's do this. Now you might be harder to see. Let's get the braid coming out. So let's engage this. I should have done it with the one with the drag clicker. So we don't have a drag clicker. So we're just pulling line out. So first of all, what can happen, you're fighting a fish and he's going whatever. And then when he gets it way over there and you start reeling, you're still way over here. Okay, so the line's over here. You're over here, so when you start reeling, you end up kind of crisscrossing, right? But what can happen is you basically, your line stops going, it's not wound on the same way anymore. So let's say you get in a good fight with a fish, right? You get one, pull and drag, and it may not be a big deal or as big a deal if you're a guy that just, well, Charlie, that's why I crank my drags down full tilt and I glue them together and I don't have that issue. But what can happen is you were fighting that fish and he pulled and you did this and that. And it honestly, in my opinion, it's once your line gets a little bit thicker. I noticed it on my, I think it was one of these with 20 pound. What can actually happen is when you're pulling, if this is all the way over, and especially on, because the T-wing doesn't even become a factor on when the drag's being pulled out because it's skinny and it's over here, you know, it doesn't reach all the way over. But what can happen is if you've got this drag set pretty close, it could actually get bound up over there, and it'll literally take more force to pull your drag out if it's stuck over on the side than what it does if it was just feeding off regularly. But what can also happen, and it may not be, you know, instantly, but over the period or the lifetime of your line, it could, you know, say you cast however much and you just typically end up around the same spot, it is crossed over a few different ways. And I guess I should try to show you on one of these other, oh boy, I got stuff. What did I do there? Let me show you on one that actually has a drag clicker and bigger line. In my opinion, why they should have left that, and I don't know why they switched it, went away. I guess they just changed up the drags enough. This is going to be hard to do. I got straight braid on it. Why I have straight braid? I don't know. Jesus. Hang on, it's a live stream. If anything can go wrong, it will. And I broke the leader off. First of all, I need to cut that knot off. That would probably help. It's not wanting to go through anything. All right, I made it. So let me try to show you with this. So it's pulling, and already if you saw that now, it probably wouldn't if it was pulling out and the rod's bent down, jump out of the T-wing. I'll just pull some line off here. I'll try to keep it in the T-wing. But it's hard to, you can't really see it, but I can feel it. Like it starts to get where it is harder for me to pull it out once it gets over there. So if you were, say, you know, you're just fishing with you kind of got the drag set pretty tight and it's kind of right on the cusp and you hooked into a pretty big fish, it can actually be harder for your drag. So like the line is taking more, you know, needs more of a pull before it's going to let the drag go because of the angle that it's taking at the deal, to where it's just this way. It's always feeding off with no, like, that, you know, no sharp angle. And it's also in my opinion that if you say you pulled over here a couple different times, the next thing you know you got the line jumping, and then when you cast, say you just happened, you know, you fought one in, it was a big one, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna get back out there, and you're in such a hurry you just cast back out real hard, and if that line has kind of intercrossed and wound back up a little weird, which it can be kind of that way anyway, there's a chance just to get those you know, crazy backlash for no reason kind of deal. I just thought that was kind of the oldest reel I have here actually has, in my opinion, a better setup on it than these other ones, because I don't know if I even talked about it yet. I don't think I have. Let's talk about one more thing and then we're going to the arsenal. Hang on. Eugene, you want me to spend a lot of money. Eugene says I needed to get the Delbin Sierra Finesse Ultra Casting 6.9 for $189. Yeah, I thought about trying one of those, but I don't know. I may at some point. I like the Dolbin's rods, but I don't want to spend that much money right now on rods. I'm telling you guys right now, but the luck I've been having with rods, I will find out. First bad luck I have with one of these Carbonlites. If I can't take it right back to Bass Pro and get it replaced, then I may go away from those. But the feel, the action, just the way they work, my hookup ratios, and the fact that they say right on them anyway, this 10-year warranty, guarantee, whatever, and even if I had to pay a little something, if it's got some kind of guarantee behind it and I go right, I mean, I'm literally like, I can't quite cast to it unless I have the real test come over and cast a Shimano that way, but we can almost hit it, right? Anyway, so that's kind of why I'm like stuck on the Carbonlites and what I got at the moment for right now. Okay, Eugene, you got me. You got me going down a different rabbit hole. What was I talking about? So, yeah, the technology with this and these other reels, right? And it's a real simple, how they have it is the fact that all these other reels, the gear that works, the worm gear, the two little plastic gear, almost every one of them are plastic now. It's attached to the shaft on all your newer ones. It seems like it just goes down there. It just goes on. Then your little, I don't even know what they call that with the teeth to re-engage the reel. Piece goes on, and those are when they start working into the drag system, right? So that piece really isn't even, it's attached to this. So if you're turning the handle, then your level wine's turning. And on this reel, it's not. And on these, so that's like the easiest way if you're like, well, I wonder what my reel, and I can guarantee you that, see how that's going with it. Almost everything new, that's what it's doing. The older, I'm not even sure which, I don't even know. I didn't even really know this reel did it. Just until the other day, I don't even know what I was checking. I was like, what in the world? I was like, that is awesome. I didn't know, I forgot. I either didn't know or I just forgot that it did that. But that, in my book, that's a plus. But what I'm going to talk about is, and then we're going on to the cast testing, Eugene. Cast testing. Then we're going on to the arsenal. I did go out the other day. I took this reel right here and this reel right here. And I cast them, and then I switched spools, and I cast them again. Now, this reel will surprise you on just how forgiving it is. And a lot of you probably say just because the braking is actually probably too much in general for a good long cast, but I was throwing like that hard to throw worm. Now this is a BFS spool, and this spool can hang right with it, but in my opinion, there is not a lot of difference between this old reel and this new everything reel, right? And I got to get a different bearing to get this thing quieter. It's that one bearing. I tried to find one that switched it out, but I can't. I don't have a spare unless I were to rob one out of the, one of these other reels. But it just, I kind of reproved to myself that these reels are awesome reels. And that's why they're still on sale on eBay for like really more money than you would think. You think just an old reel that's outdated, but these aren't really outdated. There's really the technology, the fact you could put an SV spool, well, I did, you can stick an SV, a boost, or whatever spool right in this. And I don't know, like, I feel, if you guys remember, right, the reel testing, he's going to be doing tests because to check the SV and the whole T-wing and all that. I don't know if the T-wing is any better than this. And I'm going to explain that real quick, and then I'm going on to my arsenal. Because here's the thing with the T-wing. Let me get this line fixed before I goof something up. I got a wadded up mess. How did I do that? Eugene, why'd you let me do that? I don't even know what I did yet. I tied my, way to go, Eugene, I tied my leader into a knot. But here's what I think the problem, that why this isn't as functional as what Daiwa would lead you to believe. It works good, don't get me wrong. It functions and it works good, but I think what I actually could, I think it makes a more consistent cast, every cast, because it opens up and that you don't have as much of a, you call it a pinch point or whatever. Here's why I think it sucks. Just for the fact, if you guys look at how high the spool is up here, the line you're throwing this way, so the line, it's, it's got to make this turn too. Everybody talks about this, right? Everybody talks about, oh, that's the angle and the cones and the this and the that. But there's also what Dai was doing back in the day. There's also this angle. Like, in all honesty, if you could have it to where you didn't need to put, you know, say if we all palm like this and you could have this area totally open to where nothing was here, the line could come off however high it wanted to, because you guys have probably seen it. It'll start to come up before, and it probably wouldn't backlash if it could just ride there and then get sucked down, you know, further down the rod into one of the guides. And that's why some of those I don't think need to be as big as they are, but they're up there a ways. But I think what can actually slow down some of the performance that would be a little better if the T-wing, when it opened up, I like how it comes out, but it goes down. If you guys notice that. Let me get this line out of the way. But when a T-wing, right, if you watch that, it goes up, and look how down it goes. Look how far down that goes. So that's instantly wanting to suck that line and keep it down to where, if you look, the old school Daiwa, it lets it go up, and that's part of the reason why this was designed like this, right? See how it's up? That's kind of like 13 Fishing's arrowhead. So I'll try to hold this where I feel you guys can see. Like if these were on the reel, and it's not by a ton, but this is definitely got a higher outlet, I guess you'd call it, than that. So I just think, I think it's a, you know, I don't know. I think there's something that could be done better than that. I like the idea of the T-wing, but I would like it better if almost it was in reverse. Like if it was real high up and wide, and then, you know, flip the other way. I don't even know how they would do it, or keep it the same. But, and out there in what I gathered, just in the casting and the playing around, what I was doing, I'd say there's something to the boost. And it may just be to the fact that once you get it set, it's a trouble-free, like it'll let you get that extra little umph that would have backlashed you, and it just takes that out by having that extra little, it'll jump on out there, slow you down like, whoa, son, take it easy, and you won't backlash as often. But I'm not sure if I'm sold on the T-wing. I think it's better than having a little bitty old cone thing, but like as far as what they did back in the day, because I don't know if I could tell much of a difference between this reel and this reel with that spool. I think that spool functioned. It can keep up. It can't throw quite as far as this BFS spool in either one, that little worm, but it keeps right up with it. But I can't say that I feel it getting better than this spool. And same thing with this spool. When I put this spool in here, and I put this spool in here, I can't say that I noticed much of a difference. Crazy louder, like this thing, I put this spool in this reel, I got the quiet casting, the, you know, because I got basically stock Daiwa bearings, and it felt good, and it felt like I felt like I had good control. Honestly, I felt like I couldn't turn these brakes down enough. I could cast that thing hard, and I could just cast. There was like no issue. It was windy. It was crazy windy. That's why I didn't even bother to try to film it. I was throwing a shaky head that worms that is hard to cast, and I had this thing turned down as low as this setting would go with the SV boost spool, and I couldn't get it to do anything. And actually with this spool, I had to turn it up because it's got a different deal in it. But as far as once you turn that, the performance is kind of right there. But the SV boost, I think that's why it works so good. It lets you turn, it lets you get to a lower setting and still have the SV part going, you know, stress-free, versatile, right? So you're going to get a little longer cast with a little less force and a little safety. So I really think there's something to the spools now. Like, I don't want to buy another reel. Like, I've been looking on there, You know, you can get a old Steez A for like 250 bucks with the scratcher in there, but like, dude, I'd rather the 350, 375 for, well, almost 400. I think that those boost spools are worth the money, so I don't want any of them older reels with that older spool because I'd rather have the newer one. And I'm just waiting. And I'm telling you guys can, you heard it from me first. When they start putting these in some sort of BFS spool, it's going to be like the word everybody uses, game changer. I think you're going to see a game changer in the BFS game. Just my opinion. And I got some crazy knot here. But anyway, let's keep going. All right, this isn't even about real technology. This is about my arsenal. I know, 35 minutes in, I've only shown you like 2 rod. So let's talk about the one you guys hardly ever see because I stuck it on the filling rod and I just have left it on there with the shaky head. And this is the worm I was talking about, a worm just like this. And I know you can't see it. It's stretched out about 3.5 foot right now. I had the hardest time in the world back in the day. Now, almost, I'll be honest, half of my rod and reels will cast this, no problem now. Like, I think the technology is a little advanced, but it's kind of like me and my casting ability is probably more advanced now that I've thrown them for a few years. But I can even throw it on this. Can't throw it quite as far, but that right there, but it's not. That's not going to be for that. But anyway, the filling rod is going to be probably my almost lightest other than the Teton. So basically the Teton and this rod are going to do these shaky heads if I want to rig up a drop shot, a TRD, any of my smaller soft plastic, you know, BFSE, powered BFS type stuff like that. That's what that's going to be. So I basically, all of my reels that have purple on them, they're going on my purple rods. So then we have the next in line, which is the Quick, right? It's a little bit, it's rated as a medium light. So the medium light is going to get the Joker. Now this will be kind of probably everything I just mentioned, plastic stuff, but maybe with the heavier weight. So 1/8 ounce or up with the worm or with the you know, maybe a little deeper water, a little longer cast. This Joker or LingL with 10-pound test, and the other ones also are going to get 10-pound, but they might 10 or 15-pound braid. But it's going to have, they're going to have 6 or 8 or 10-pound leaders. This is probably going to be strictly 10-pound test, 10-pound leader, just doing a lot of different things. Or if other people are fishing with me, they're going to be fishing with these, right? Because we all know my hookup ratios with these, with any kind of moving stuff. But they're either going to be soft plastic for me or whatever anybody else wants to fish with that I'm fishing with. Typically girls. Oh. So this one, this is going to be the home of, you guessed it, the Sharp is a medium. I call it closer to a medium whatever, but this fits the bill right here. I believe that is 15-pound old school Hercules I think we bought. I spun it around. It was exactly what it came with when I got it back from my son. I just flipped it over, and we're going to use it. It still looks brand new on this end. So the old, it's going to go to work. It's going back to work. We're not, this reel is too good to just like let it set. It's an old rat reel. It's beat up. Still works as good as any of these other reels I got. I added that clicker back in the day. That's one of those from the, I think it was Dr. Trout from the Ukraine. About one of the only guys you could get them from back in the day off of, was it Tackle Tour? You could message him, or he had his own, and he's still, I think he's still there on eBay. But that is an awesome clicker. It has worked for several years now. This reel is awesome. I like that spool other than that bearing. The bearing that came with it, I got to get off there at some point. I just want it, I want it quieter. It'll cast just fine. Stock Daiwa bearing over here. Oh, Fireball. Yeah, I've actually, and this is a funny story. I've talked here lately about Fireball a lot. I've only ever drank 2/5 of Fireball, and it was all in the last couple months of last year. But no, I'm going to get some more. I'm out of Fireball. I don't know when I'm going to get some more, but I really don't drink that much. I just talk and act like I do. But honestly, I don't drink a lot. But when I do drink, I don't drink a little typically, if that makes sense. So that's got, now more or less, that is the typical BFS, power BFS stuff. Now there's one other rod that is right there in a true, what I call true power BFS that I'm going to be doing. And that is my shortest rod. That's the 6'6" Carbonlite 2.0 medium light, right? It actually is, it's probably kind of like the Feeling and the Teton on steroids. It is stouter and stronger. It's not going to let the little dinks be as much fun, but if I'm trying to catch, you know, big fish with little baits, this is really the rod I would probably want over that Feeling or the, it's not, you know, or the Teton. So this one is going to get, once I figure out what handle assembly to put on it, I think I'm going to put this on it. Now there's possibility it'll get another. It's a possibility this will get, and it's the way it's looking right now, because I think I'm going to go buy another 6'9" or 7 foot medium heavy. One of the two. I'm either going to get an identical 6'9" medium heavy. I'm going to put this on it, and I'm going to put the Bantam on the other one, and then I'm going to put the other LingL I have, the true stock LingL will go on this, and it'll cover all those duties. So that rod is technically still up in the air, but it's getting one of the two, and it's just going to be that same kind of thing. Real little cranks, you know, the maybe as far as the little Proberos, and like if I go fishing with Charles, it may get the jabber jaws and stuff like that. But if I'm fishing with Matt, or you know, where I'm worried more about catching the fish, getting into the boat, then it'll probably just be the little soft plastic of some sort, and then the other one I'm getting ready to show you will take over the jabber jaws and the littler cranks and stuff. So then the where's it at? The 7 foot medium moderate is actually what I'm going to try to turn into my all around. I want to be able to throw the smaller chatterbaits even, but just a lot. Like this, I'm going to try to see how the hookup, if you guys remember, I just got it last year. Haven't had a lot of time towards the end of last year. I didn't get a lot of time on it, but I did get out and manage some chatterbait fish with it. It's going to be good for the jabberjaws, like the treble baits, right? That medium moderate. It should be capable of handling a lot of different stuff. I'm also going to use it for any, if I feel I need to go with a little bigger, whether it be a shaky head or just a heavier weight on those. Like it's kind of like that light wire 2/0 size, or maybe a little smaller on some of that kind of stuff. And that's why it's going to get my favorite reel, because this may be, and I don't know yet, I may think it sucks and I may end up trying to do a lot of that stuff with the 6'9" medium heavy. But that's why it's going to get the Steez, and I think it's going to be that covering a lot of different stuff, because this is out of the, once you get past that true BFS, or you know, power BFS, then this is the funnest rod out of the, you know, 6'9" or 7 foot rods that I have. This 7 foot medium moderate, it just loads well. It can handle fish, but it puts a little more fun back into it. So that's what the Steez is going on. And I'm not going to leave it on there because I'm setting these around. I end up scratching this sucker. So he's coming off. But yeah, the Steez is going to go on that to start. 7 foot medium moderate Carbonlite. And then I only got 2 left. My favorite rod, period. This thing has just been a work. I probably will just buy another one, but this is the one going to be throwing the majority of my 3/8 ounce chatterbaits, right? 3/8, can throw the half, but I think I'm going to try to also use the heavy for that also. But the Bantam, just for the fact that I ain't getting no little clatter noises, I'm going to try to see if I can make myself like it on it. I can instantly feel that weight. Oh boy, we got a rod knocking. But this is a good working filling now I'm going to take the line up. I'm going to put, this is the one, this is the only one for now that's going to start halfway or just over halfway spooled. It is a high-speed gear ratio, so I'm going to slow it down for the chatterbaits. And this is the only one I'm doing that way right off the bat. What is this? Is it 8.1 or 8? Yeah, I think it's only 8.1 to 1. So just past halfway spooled, we'll probably put it somewhere in that 7 range. Probably perfect for chatterbaits. And I may, while I have that line on, just try it. But it's probably going to be even less than that. Somewhere not quite half. And I'm putting a drag clicker in it and the Steez, by the way. But I think I'm really going to like that once I get out and start using it. I do not like this. I think once I get out there and start throwing baits and get a feel for it, I think I'm just going to leave the 2 on, 2 off, and then adjust this, and I won't have an issue with it, because it sucks taking that off. I do not like that. I've heard a couple people talk about it, and I thought, oh, you're crazy. It can't be that hard. That is a hard item to take on and off. I definitely don't like the idea of doing it on the water. I've already flung it across this room before by trying to get it. Sometimes it'll come right off. Other times it's like a nightmare. Majority of the time it's a nightmare. But I like the reel overall. So it's going on that. But I'm tempted to go ahead and just buy another one, and I'll have 2, right? So I can be throwing, because this 6'9" also works excellent for very, like the finesse jigs and stuff. And that's another thing about whether it be this 6'9" medium heavy, or probably the medium moderate at times, or even that the heavier purple rod, those real little, like the Bitsy Bugs and those 16th ounce, because the reels I have on these rods are capable enough, but the hooks are a little bit stouter to where like the Teton, or definitely the filling, they probably aren't stout enough to get a good hook set on some of those little jigs. So that's when I'll use the this 6'9" medium heavy. That is a very awesome rod. And the testing I've done with it, like everything I've thrown, it'll throw it, and it'll also set the hook. I've thrown through that 16th ounce VMC shaky head on it, even though it's light wire, because you guys know me, I don't have my drag set super tight, even with 15-pound. And that's not, I mean, it's a light wire hook, but that's a pretty good old hook. And I rigged up a shaky head on it, and that 6'9", it did the job fine. Problem was, unless you're catching a very big fish, there's no competition. That once you get in these bigger ones, anything over that medium, the medium heavies and heavies, they are just awesome powerful rods that will just yank a 2-pounder right to the boat like it ain't nothing. So that leaves 1, right? 7-foot heavy action Carbonlite 2.0. We'll get the 1 remaining Zillion. Now I've added that little piece, and this one just stuck in there. I don't know if you guys can see that. It just keeps this from going back just far enough. It just gives it that extra feel that makes it feel as good, if not better, than the Bantam or the Steez. It just gives it that perfect, it doesn't feel pinched. It keeps it mainly from right in here. And it's just by like a millimeter or so, but it just keeps it from having that feel. And then this, I was out there in the testing I was doing, because this is going to be primarily my frog jig, just heavier, throw it out. I'm not doing any really, I can throw chatterbaits on it too. But this is just my powerful setup. Gonna stick with that much line, roughly that much, just 20-pound braid to I haven't decided if I want to go ahead and put 20-pound leader. I probably should, but I can always just go straight braid if I'm like, because I think I'm gonna stick with my 15-pound P-line leader, and then if I want to throw, in the nastiest stuff like frogs or whatever, I just cut the leader off, tie directly on, throw, do whatever I'm gonna do. Then I can always just put my leader back on. But I just go ahead and order a small spool of 20-pound, or I may go ahead and just get I was thinking about buying everybody keeps talking about the Sunline Sniper fluorocarbon, FC Sniper, right? I keep hearing and hearing about it. So I'm thinking about buying a spool of 20 pound, putting it on one of these reels. I don't know which one. Not this one, probably. Maybe, maybe not. And then I would also have a little bit of that left over I could use for, you know, fluorocarbon leader, 20 pound to this and try it. But most of these others are all going to stay 15. This one is going to be 20. Just like I said, for frogs, get around the nastiest, whatever. Or if we just typically like, man, we're starting to catch some big fish, maybe I'll just, you know, switch to this. Or I could even take this reel off, slap it on any of these other rods, and you know, most of all the other ones will handle 20 pound. Let me see, what are the ratings? Yeah, the medium heavy says 10 to 20. The medium moderate says 6 to, that ain't it. I'm going to say it says 6 to 14, but that's the, even the medium light says 14, 6 to 14. Yeah, it says 8 to 17, which the way I set my drags, it'll handle that 20 pound. I can have it pretty tight. That rod won't snap. These are some stout rods. Now I've got them balanced. I've got a lot of weight. I actually have too much on this one. But it's like funny when you're fishing and you got a jig on the other end. I call it like a jig assist, like a worm or jig assist. Like it'll almost teeter. It's hard to explain. You just have to. It would be something you'd have to go out and try. When you literally have butt heavy rod, like it's a touch. Like if I put my hand like this, it balances. But if I try to teeter in the dead center of the reel, it's almost butt heavy. But when you're sitting there and you know you got the tip up and you're working a bait, the line's pulling some, you know. So you got this little, it's like it is a perfect balance when working a bait on bottom and filling the bottom. So I'm going to leave it for now, but I might take a little more weight off it if you guys can look. There is chunks of lead in there. That, I know, it looks like a walleye tournament is going on. I'm just telling you. But even casting, it just feels better. I've tried it without any weight, with or whatever. And because these Carbonlites are a heavier rod, they're that, you know, they've got a coating on them, right? They are painted or whatever. They're not your high-end, high-dollar, very, because they're still sensitive, but they're not, you know, like an NRX, NRX Plus. They're not the, you know, high-end Mega Bass and that kind of stuff. But man, I'm telling you, I can feel the bites. The hookup ratios are crazy, and I love these rods. And they seem to not, like, they just bend, they flex. They've got a different bend and flex than a lot of other rods I've tried, and it works. So yeah, I'm probably gonna, you'll probably see with a couple others. I haven't decided if I want to try to go, you know, try any of the other lineup. I don't really need them. I know I don't get too, like, these will cover a wide range of fishing. Yeah, Nate, I've thrown the Slobber Knocker knockoffs. They are nowhere near the chatter. Like, okay, so that's it. First of all, that's it, guys. It's been almost an hour. I've talked a lot about the performance of reels, right? So that's my arsenal as we speak. It could change up. I don't know. Who knows? I could change a few things. Most of that stuff's going to stay. Possibility, though, I'll put it this way. If I had the money, I'd already ordered a Steez Hyper Long Cast and the new Steez A. And then we'd put them on there. But then I also probably would have got a Metanium Shallow spool, the new version of this. I would have bought a Corrado DC, the old school one, the 150, not the new 200. I actually like the idea of the less, a little bit smaller spool. I like the original one they came out with. But then I'd probably also buy the SLX DC XT just to try out. I'd probably go buy the full lineup of the Carbonlites and just rig them all up, try ones at different times, and just get different shootouts. But I'm not going to do that. Now, I may do that slowly through this coming season. You may see me sell this, buy that, sell this, buy that, because The reason I haven't or I don't want to buy any, I'm sure you guys would like me to shoot them out, but I find resistance in all of the newer Shimanos that has gone to plastic. This reel doesn't have it. It's the older one. I'd almost say I hear the buzz when I'm out there reeling fast. And you guys haven't seen any footage yet, but I was out there throwing it, and Nate was talking about the slobber knockers. I've not really went out and fished the slobber knockers, but if you remember right, towards the end of last season, I actually caught that carp with the slobber knocker knockoff. Okay, oh shoot, I don't even remember what reel I was using. But what I was out there I was using a slobber knocker, and I got into some thawed out water, and I was casting it. And when this reel is reeling a bait, there's no humming or buzzing or nothing, right? When you're feeling resistance. And I would still swear this reel has a more powerful retrieve on, say, a chatterbait or a crankbait, just a slight more than my Daiwas. And I don't know what it is about it. But when you reel in fast, you can hear almost a slight buzz. And I've heard a lot of guys claim that if these micro modulus gears are so thin, if they get stretched or something, they'll get a whine or a buzzy noise. So I don't know if that's what that is. But if anything, it's only helped it, because this reel is crazy free. Feels good. I can't knock how this reel feels, works, casts, does everything good. The only downside, well, there's two. One's not a big deal. A lot of you guys won't even care. A lot of you guys are smart and you wear gloves when it's cold. This freaking thing is cold. When it's so cold outside, it is cold to hold on to. Oh my God. It is just like holding on to a block of ice. But as soon as it starts to warm up, that is going to go away. Some of these other ones are cold too. Like the cheapies, this thing is what you want to use. This or the LingLs, oh man, they're like worth their money in gold when it's cold outside, because they're all graphite, right? You don't have that cold, your instant hand just gets cold when you're holding on to them. But the only downside that is really a downside is if you need to be able to take this off, like if you need to make this change. So and I'm trying to, I don't know why, but if I pull it on and off a few times, then it'll pop right on and off easy. But I'd swear it's like stuck. I'd swear it gets like stuck on, and I think it's just because the O-ring is like too big. I'm just telling you, it's honestly troubling how hard it is to pop out. It makes you think you're going to break something, and then it pops out. And I literally pulled it and went flying over on the carpet one day. Now, I didn't do that scratch. There's like a scratch on it, and that's probably the guy, whoever had it before me, probably flung it off a couple different times, and that's probably how that got scratched, because the rest of the reel seems fine. So what I'm going to try to do, and that's how I have it, 2 on, 2 off. I really don't want to ever have to open that up again. Now, I don't know if you could, there's some way you could add, maybe I should put a drop of oil on the O-ring, but that may make it swell. I don't know. Maybe that's what's happened. But this reel is just like it's too tight of a fit. The tolerances are too tight. And that's what makes me, I don't like that. You know, in comparison, this reel, which is fairly brand new, it should only get a little easier. Like you literally slide that out, like it is just so easy to just take the side plate off. And you don't even have to on this though, because there's no setting you can do in there. The only reason you would need to mess with that is if you're going to change spools. So, I don't know. I just need to get out and fish it and use it and see what I think. You know, the weight, hopefully it won't be a deal for me, because the 7-foot heavy is going to weigh about the same, because I got it counterbalanced. The 6'9" is a lot lighter rod with the heavier reel, so they should feel close. The 7-foot medium moderate should just feel lighter overall, because it's going to have this on it. So they shouldn't be that far off in the feel of them. But I need to go up to Rogers and just see if the older Corrado still has that, the DC. But I kind of the whine of the casting. I really don't know if I want another one of those. But I did like the way we stuck it on the Carbonlite, and it did palm good. It felt good on the rod. But the LingLs, they feel real good too. The Steezes feel real good in the LingLs, and then now this does, but you have to do that without doing that little modification I do, which is kind of janky looking. But if you don't really look down there and see the tape, and it holds solid, like you tighten that down, it's like on. It doesn't wiggle, it doesn't move, so it'll work. And it just, then it palms good. Like it is excellent, feels awesome. So technically I should just go buy another roll of tape and fill all of my reels, and fill all my rods with these Zillions, right? But then we got the paint issue. Jesus, look at that. That thing is wearing from just me. That's just I haven't like drug this on a boat or nothing. That's from my thumb going up and down on this thing. You guys see that where that black's starting to fade off? And I've heard a few people talking about that these things are just, the paint is not, doesn't hold up. It's like right there from making adjustments, if you really look, it's starting to get black. It's just wear. Is this from skin wear? That's not a boat rash. I mean, my hands need lotion at times, but they ain't that bad. Come on now. They're not truly like sandpaper. But that part really isn't as big a deal as long as it works and functions, because we typically always get them all scratched here and there. Some of you guys don't even care. Some of you guys they're a tool and they just throw them around, they get all beat up, and then they on eBay for like $100 less than anybody else's, but nobody wants to buy them because they look like crap. At least a full-on solid wear, I guess, isn't as nasty as the ones that look like a woodpecker like attacked it. So anyway, Nate, I know I went off on a tangent, but here, let's talk about the slobber knockers. Since I had them on and I was, detecting all the pull and the feel, the slobber knocker is nowhere near the thump of a jackhammer. The jackhammer, because it just like a hammer, right? And it shakes and it's coming at you. The slobber knocker is definitely like a muted version, and I feel like you got to keep it going faster to even keep that muted version going. Like there's a lot of resistance on the hole that the blade has to set in, does not let it rock back and forth, which doesn't give you as much of it just slobbers, right? It's not a true slobber knocker. It's a slobber, not a knocker. It's not a hammer. But there could be a place for it. So I did I replaced them colors. I threw the Arise reel and lost like almost all of them but one. But I replaced those colors. I think may work, because I think that little more subtle, but I'm still coming with some speed. There may be a time bass want that. Now I'm going to find out this season if I'm going to throw both all separate, whatever. And if it just doesn't get bit, they're just going out of lineup. As I lose them or whatever, they're just going to be gone. But I'm going to give them a shot. And I also brought out, if you guys remember right, I brought back out, which I was going to totally get rid of, the Mad Bites through Casking. You guys remember those chatterbaits that had that crazy smiley face looking bill, and like there was just so much, like I feel they don't go deep enough. Like they chatter good, but I feel they ride too high up in the water column. But I almost dismissed them, and I thought, you know what? There might be a time when I want that. A good hard thump, but high up. You get in that certain times of grass where you feel like you got to go faster to where it doesn't get bogged down. Well, that's where those would maybe be like they'd be perfect. So I'm going to keep those, because I'm trying to, if I feel anything, I've got more refinement in than all my other, things I throw. It's the chatterbait. So since last year, I was trying to pick up a couple years ago, if you guys remember right. And then I guess I've always had a decent, my jig, I don't know, the square bills. I was trying to find a replacement for the Dig It. Never really did. This year, the Jabberjaw, but the Jabberjaw, just like Matt originally told me, he's like, when it's on, it's on. And it's true. That Jabberjaw will flat catch him, but then there's days where I can't get a bite on that Jabberjaw. And I'm still trying to find. I feel there is always a finesse square bill bite going on. Always. Like always. Winter, summer, hot, cold, rain, storm. The Dig It, if you guys remember right, that Proberos seems like cold water, maybe better, but then there's probably another. So I need to probably work on some smaller flat size. I know I already thought it, and I probably just need to buy a few. Not the OG Slim, but that new Tiny or whatever they call it. Probably ought to try invest in a couple of those. That littler one. I bought the, oh man, those Strike Kings. Just thinking about adding that price up in those 5 or 6 Strike King sexy shad color baits I got that just suck. I've yet to catch a fish on any of those. Oh, Chick Magnet. The Chick Magnet, I don't know. That bait so far, I didn't use it a lot, I know. I didn't give it, I still got it. It's going to get a chance, but I am not a fan of sexy shad color in the first place, but any of those baits. It seems like that olive colored shad or whatever, the Jabberjaw, it just has a better chance of, I could throw it and throw all 6 or 7 of those other baits, give them all 40 casts. Each one of those 40, so 40 say times 5 or 6, right? And then just 40 for the Jabberjaw. I feel the Jabberjaw would catch me more fish. But yeah, for crankbaits, I don't know. I've never been a fan of Strike King crankbaits. I try to make myself. I don't like their red eye shads as much as I do the Booyah hard knockers. I don't like their square bills. I just don't like as well as there's other brand of square bills I like. So on that note, I got an order coming to try to up my drop shot game. And I bought a couple more, the new Rattle Trap square bills. If you guys seen them, the 1.0, 1.5, and 2.5s, I forget what they even call those things now. But I bought just 2, more like a natural fishy shad color. Actually, no, I bought oyster, because oyster, if you guys remember right, I was doing good with we were doing good with the red eye shad in the oyster color. So they have an oyster color in that little square bill and a craw color, sort of like a Toledo goat, I think. Something, reddish color. Of course, spring will be coming up. That should work. So I bought just the 1.0s to try. And those were, what were they, $7 or $8 a piece. I'm not buying any more unless those things seem like they may do something. And there's a few. I've actually been honestly thinking about trying a couple of the JDM ones. There's been a couple. I need to pick up my square bill game, but I like my little square bill game because I feel that if anything bigger than 1.5 is going to get hit, that my chatterbait will too, right? Or a spinnerbait or rattle trap, half-ounce rattle trap. Like I feel when I get finessey, I'm throwing around wood and stuff like that, that the 1.5 or smaller is probably, in my opinion, my better option. It's going to get more bites, and it can still pull that fish in that the 2.5 would have or whatever, or I'm throwing chatterbaits if they're biting that good. Because anytime I've tried a bigger square bill, it's never been as good for me anyway as my smaller square bills. But I'm not in a place with big fish. So anyway, the Jabberjaw, I'm going to try it. Mark says the CI4 reel. Yeah, you're talking about the, oh shoot. I think he's talking about they're being nice for the cold weather. I want to say, is it the, I got the name on the tip of my tongue. It's all graphite. The, shoot. I can't even think of it. Not the Corrado. Chronarch. The Chronarch MGL or the Chronarch CI4, whatever. Those are all graphite reels, I believe. So that would be your Shimano option to fish in cold weather. Your hands aren't going to freeze as much. Is that the only high-end reels? Daiwa does not make all their plastic, graphite, carbon fiber, whatever composite reels they're all cheaper, I think, right? The Chronarch is actually a fairly expensive reel for being all. Now here, that's a good reel. I could not make myself like that. I've had them. They look good. I haven't owned them. I've palmed them, looked at them, and I just don't like the way they palm. I think they're a size bigger than they need to be, and they've just never really enthused me since the old Chronarch D series. The E would have, except I knew it was kind of a chintzy way. That the Corrado E green one looked better than at the time the white one, and the white one looked way uglier than the D. They should have stuck with the same colors and scheme, and then the E would have maybe done. It would have done better for me. I maybe would have bought one. I never did buy one of those. I had the Corrado E. I think I had the 50 E and the 200 E7 or 5. I don't know. Back in the day. And I think no, those were aluminum because they were same frame. The 50E is the same frame as an Aldebaran, but they were aluminum, and Aldebarans are magnesium. I keep seeing those Chronarch, the Chronarch D, not the Chronarch D. I keep seeing the Metanium, which is the same thing as what the Chronarch D was. Don't look quite as good as what the D did, but they should function better. Because I think their magnesium and the Chronarch was actually aluminum. So they should be more up my alley, but they were going to palm a little big. But I don't know. I'm still tempted just to buy one of those, put a drag clicker in it, and try to find a spot or a time to fish it. Just kind of like I did with the Edo, you know. It's like some of those old reels still work very good. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. We're not going to go for the 3-hour record, but we went over an hour already. Mr. UCL, what do I think of Shimano updating the Bass 1 XT BFS rods? Oh, if you're talking about the ones the real test had on there was showing, yeah, they look good. I don't know. I just can't. I keep wanting to get a Bantam, not a Bantam rod. I keep wanting to get the X Pride. I want to try one X Pride rod, and if I get one, it'll just be basically because of tactical bass and talking about the 6'10" medium as being, you know, good for jerkbaits, but kind of all around mid type stuff, and it probably is, but I don't know if I would like it as well as he does, and I don't know if I want to mess with it. I probably should just buy one to try it. I mean, I ended up buying like 3 NRX rods, and then I was not happy with those for the money they cost. They were all right. I probably should have kept one of the 802s and used it for shaky head, drop shot, you know, BFS-y, power BFS, because it was pretty good for that. Bottom stuff, it sucked for anything moving like it. My hookup ratio was horrible with all those rods. Unless I had a shaky head on it, I felt like I was going to miss a fish if I set the hook. Even on certain jigs of different stuff, but man, that... well, any of those, they're roughly around like a light wire 2-aught hook. It was almost, and the 80, was that 802 and the 803 that I had, they were good for that. The 802 felt like it was going to be good for, or 803, I thought would be okay for the smaller chatterbaits and jerkbait, but it just, I don't know. Anyway, he says he has a Poison Adrena 610. Yeah, I probably should just buy one because I do need, I feel I do not have a good that I like jerkbait rod. I had one. The last good one that I feel that was I loved it. It worked good. My cousin ended up with it. I probably should try to get back from. It was actually a custom rod that I bought from someone local here. What was his name? oh, I can't remember what his name was on a tackle tour, but he was a local fisherman here. So I met up with him. And I bought a couple customs that he had custom made. And he just wasn't happy with how they were. I think I gave him 100, 150 each for them. But they were both spiral wrapped, where they were, wrapped up and under at the bottom like what a spinning reel would. But they had real good action. So I took I screwed up and broke the lightest one. Man, that was an awesome rod. Probably my favorite rod I've ever had. It broke the tip off. Sucked after that. It broke about 3 inches of the tip, and it was junk. It was just, it killed it. It was a perfect rod, and then it was junk. But then the other one was a Shakura blank. But anyway, I didn't like the handle. The handle assembly was funky in my opinion. So I actually took that off. If you guys remember right, the Mega Bass, I don't remember the name of it, but that light bluish, almost looked like ivory reel seat with a cork handle. That rod broke. It was on like a 6 foot crazy heavy action. It was a horrible rod in the first place. Somehow I broke it. As typically I did. Anytime I bought an old Mega Bass rod before like the Destroyer X7 line, I broke all those rods. Those rods were awesome looking, working, feeling, but either I dinged them or somebody before I got them, I broke those, and I felt under normal conditions. But they were several-year-old rods, been used before I bought them. That just ended my ever buying a used Mega Bass rod. I had broke my Pagani, Mega Bass Pagani rod, snapped it. Yeah, I'm hard on rods, but the handle assembly was awesome. So I used it, put it on that custom rod that had the spiral wrapped, and just, man, I don't think it was perfect for jerk baits, but it worked. It was under 7 foot. I don't know if it was 6'10". It could have been 6. I don't know. I forget where it ended up. And my cousin's got it. I probably ought to just see if he wants to sell it back to me, and just, even if I don't keep it, use it and see what I like about it, and then try to match it up with something else. Because everything else I go feel. If I feel one that, the one, if you guys remember me talking about the Jordan Lee rods, the Abu Garcia, the one he has is short, that it says right on it, jerkbait rod. I don't think I would like that rod as a jerkbait rod. There's a few others I handled at the store, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I would like that. I thought I would like my 6'7" Fate Black. Feels good. Works a jerkbait in my mind. Feels good. Hookups are horrible with it. Same thing with the Quick. Or no, the Sharp. Well, the Sharp and the Quick. The Quick, I think, is almost too light, and the Sharp is too stiff. I feel like you can work it good. I feel like the one that should be awesome is the Quick. It just feels good, but then I don't know what it is about it. I feel like the fish don't stay pinned, and I don't know why. Unless it's just the tip is soft enough, but then it just doesn't give enough bend in the rest of the rod. But it's 6'8", and maybe that is just a little too short. Maybe you need 6'10" just to give that extra little parabolic, just extra little bend to help keep those fish buttoned up. I feel, honestly, I think the one fish in my 6'9" medium heavy, I just threw on that little old jerk bait, threw it out, and was playing around, and boom, hooked it, yanked it in like it was no issue. I'm like, well, maybe I should just use that rod, because it did it. But yeah, so anyway, I got to get out of here. I'm kind of just on a reel kick at the moment. I already think I'm going to try to get my rods, and the downside to the Carbonlites, I don't think any of those feel like they would be that great for a jerkbait rod. They're just not there. I guess I could try. See, they don't even have. If they had more 6'9", like a 6'9" medium, possibly could get me what I'm wanting. I guess I could try the 6'6". Do they make a medium heavy in 6'6"? I can't remember. If they do, I don't think I've ever tried it. They don't have it at Bass Pro Shops. Because I don't need a long one. The 6 foot, because I feel my jerkbait rod needs to be one of my shortest rods. It may not be needing to be 6'6", but it needs to be 6'8" or 9. 10, 11, 7 foot, in my opinion, is too long in the littler boat anyway. So anyway, stay tuned. I'm also going to be putting together a video. I'm going to try to do that this weekend, if not tomorrow night or sometime. I'm going to start out with just the little baits of what I started with and then kind of branch out. So we're kind of going to go and look through, you know, we went kind of through my rod and reel arsenal tonight, sort of, and we spent another 45 minutes talking about nothing. But I'm going to start out and I want to get to a broad spectrum of my main stuff, baits. But I want to start from the beginning of when I, in my mind anyway, first started putting together my, you know, arsenal of baits. You know, I fished for bass for a long time, and I would kind of just, honestly, I would use what other people had. I'd use my own stuff. I was catfishing too, you know what I mean? I was just, I didn't really have bass gear. I just had fishing stuff. Had some bass baits. But I'll try to bring in, and I still have, not the exact baits, but some of the basic stuff I used then I still use today. I just have branched out. But I'm going to try to start with that, bring it out here, show you, and then just show you how I've kind of evolved over the years to what I have now. And the fact that you could actually go right back to what I started out at, and probably you could definitely save yourself some hassle and worry, because once you have a few things and you've got confidence in them, it sometimes takes away the, oh, let's try this. Oh, I didn't try that. Oh, I need to try this. You know what I mean? But there's times when you need to go through that cycle of trying different baits, and you'll find that one that just kicks in for that day, and you're like, oh, I'm genius. But then you'll try every bait you got in your tackle box, or what you can manage to run through in a limited time of a day, and then they all didn't work, and you're like, God, I suck. Right? Throw it all away, start all over. But don't do that. There's just days when them fish won't hardly eat anything. Trust me, I've had them. So I'm out of here. And if you haven't watched it yet, I know I keep thinking of something pops in my head. I did watch today Tactical Bass, and said this is the first time. I know I've seen them on like private ponds and a few different things, but they said, and I believe them if they said it, that this is the first time they ever went to like a, you know, managed private lake, like a honey hole lake, and it was. So if you haven't watched that video, go watch it. But they talked about in that video, in which, you know, me and Charles was running into, and Matt for that matter, several years back. You go to a honey hole. Like if some of you guys have never truly fished what you call a true honey hole, like almost every time you go there, you're going to be guaranteed fish, some big, and maybe like say around here, like you're almost guaranteed a 5-pounder. Like there's a good chance you show up and fish for an hour or two or more, you might catch a 5-pound bass. There's just some honey holes like that around, right? But you still have to know what to use or track down what will work, and you know any given day is different, because like if you guys have watched that video, you know what I'm talking about. But watch it. They've talked about on Tactical Bass, and you know he's like, I thought we just show up and you know we cast here, there, wherever we cast, it'd be fine. He goes, you still have to kind of break this lake down like you would a normal lake. You know, he said we made like a circle around and went back to the spot where they caught some of the big ones, and they were still there. You know, they're out on a point, and then they. You know, so they weren't biting everywhere. They wouldn't bite every bait, and that's what I found. You know, when you do get, even on a good spot, and that's when I find it's best to check baits, because some baits honestly look awesome, suck. They're horrible baits for fishing. They just are. They just do not get hit that often. They will get hit. You get the bass. There's just times when bass. Doesn't matter if you're at a honey hole or you're at a place that is so heavily fished that you think, oh man, these fish won't hit nothing. Trust me, there's times when stuff just kicks in and they fire up. And if you happen to go out fishing that day and you're trying to bait out, it'll make that bait look like it's the greatest bait in the world, and then it may suck for the rest of the year. You may not ever catch a fish on it again, because you know that's just the way some stuff is. But usually you'll go to a spot and as long as you kind of are covering the water or trying different stuff, you'll find something that'll work. And if it's a honey hole, usually once you find like a real good bait, like you find something kind of working, then you find something like if it feels like every cast is working, then usually that will work on a lot of other places in that same area. But if you're a little off, you may catch one here, one there, and then go like a half hour and not catch a fish. And a lot of times you're passing some fish. You're just not passing the active ones in that area. And so, in my opinion, a honey hole is a good place to do testing, to see, just how some baits, or are they getting the big bites, or does this bait get a bigger bite? And usually size is kind of what comes into factor, but a lot of times it's not. Sometimes that way you're working a bait or the color of the bait will typically get a bigger bite than, you know, the way you're, like sometimes a more aggressive thing. Like I feel sometimes you go to a place, you fish for 20 minutes and you don't get hit. So you immediately slow down, you start throwing a worm, you start throwing a jig, and that's probably the worst thing you could do because you just weren't where there were fish, or at that moment there weren't fish, but there's still a good aggressive bite going on. You just haven't hit it yet, and then you're killing yourself by slowing down. You're not going to cover as much water and get as much air. So I try to go fast, which Matt goes way faster than me. I go faster than Charles. But I try to move with what I feel should be working for the time, and then I feel that something's going to hit that. Then I'll slow down and try to find them, or try to pick them off more with something a little slower, or fine tune what I was throwing. Then I might try a different color. Oh, well, okay, well, I was throwing a bright color because I wanted to see it, but now maybe I need to go with the more natural. Maybe I need to go to, different presentation, or change the trailer, or, change something up. And it doesn't really matter if you're at a honey hole or not, because I've been on, which is a good place to fish, but Lake Jacomo. I've been on Lake Jacomo before and circled that thing and caught like 5 fish. And I've been on Lake Jacomo, and everywhere you pulled up were just fish were biting. The fish were biting, the carp were biting, the bass, the catfish, and I'm like, whoa, everything is hitting, spinner baits, chatter baits, and square bills. It's like insane. But typically that's a good place to fish. We were fishing. That's how I found out the dig it worked so good for me. I don't think I'd ever thrown that bait. I don't even know why I bought it. It was $4. I know why I bought it. It was only $4 at Cabela's. Bought it, put it in my tackle box, never used it. Was throwing all kinds of baits at Lake Jacomo. We're getting ready to leave, and I'm like, at that point I was just going through my tackle box. And I just grabbed it. I didn't even look at it. I just grabbed it. I knew I liked the baby bass color, but I didn't even pay attention. I'm just grabbing baits, put it on, throw it out, fish. Didn't really put a bunch into it then. I'm like, oh wow, this bait, I glanced at it, didn't even really pay attention which one it was. Threw it out again, caught another fish. It's like, whoa. I started looking at it, like, what? I couldn't tell what it was. I'm like, where did I get this at? I threw it out. We caught, all the fish we caught were on that bait. And it was in one area, but from that day forward, I was like, I had to track it down. Took a while, tracked it down. I'm like, oh, that's that cheap one I got at Cabela's, the Dig It. It's like their house brand. Fisherman series, the Dig It. Went and bought every one in that baby bass color. Bought all they had then, and then for the next season or so, every time I went to Cabela's, and if they had them, I just bought what they had, and I think I sold some to Matt, brother, whoever else. Still have a handful of them, but once they took them off, it's kind of like anything. Once they take them off the market, it's like, I don't want to have to try to track them down. So I've been looking for something better ever since. And it's probably not as good now because I've thrown it almost everywhere I've fished. Hence I put, kind of got them accustomed to that to a certain extent. But man, that was an awesome bait. But I feel you can get luck by confidence, or whatever you would call it, by when you do hit those good times, or a honey hole, kind of the same thing. You start catching fish on something. If it's a good bait and you getting confidence in it, is only going to make it better. Now, I've had times where you'll get something and you'll throw it and you're like, well, this bait's awesome. And then you will wear yourself out trying to prove that bait's awesome and it just sucked. You just happen to be on a good day, on a good bite, and then it's really not that great of a bait. You know, it's okay. Almost any bait will catch a fish at any given time. This won't catch anything because I gotta get a handle on it. We got handles. I know this. Maybe you were right, Nate. Maybe this is going to be. Maybe this is 3 hours. We're only an hour and a half in. I've got different handles. Can you guys tell which one of these came off of the Zillion? Anybody? Which one of these handles is off the Zillion? That's tricky. Is it this one? Or is it a trick because it's got Daiwa knobs on it? Is it this one? That's what you had on it, Charlie. You had the blue. You had the blue handles on it. Blue knobs anyway on the handle. Or is it this one? Oh, this one. I like the looks better for this reel of like shiny, right? Aluminum, because it gives it a more metal-y look. But it's hard to beat the one it came with. It's very lightweight. I actually like it with the blue knobs on, so that's probably what I'll go back with and then just leave it like that. But it does look good. Let's just put this one on it. Does look good like that, or I could go full on metal with the metal drag star and the metal handle. Any which way. Does look good, but I think it may look the best with this on it with these on it because it's lighter. It's only 80 millimeters. I'll put it on I don't know. I do have a couple other handles coming. A few different colors. I probably need to order another one of. I think I got another one of these coming. They do make this one in gold too. I almost thought about ordering one of those for that TD Ito. I think I like that style better than that gold one that's on it. But I think this may be 90 and that one's only 85. Alright guys, I'm out. Hour and a half, that's all I can take. I gotta get out of here. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Like I talked about, it's about time to start getting into baits, right? It's about time to start fishing, and it doesn't matter what rod and reels you got. Have them rigged up with line. Doesn't matter what line you got. As long as it's fairly new and you're checking it very often, you got the drag set okay. The baits are what really get you bit, right? If you can't get bit, you can't worry about losing the fish due to your line, your drag, or your actions of your rods, right? So I would consider baits are probably your most important part about bass fishing, right? If it wasn't for the baits, we'd all just be out throwing shiners, catching them right and left. So get out, go bass some bonsai, but whatever you do, make sure you have fun doing it. Stay tuned. Let's see what I do next.